Yes, lovely.
If you're an Armory3D game developer or you're just an indie game developer, you don't want to miss these settings which can help us optimize our Armory3D bullet hell game. Good day everybody, this is Pindeni here. Welcome to the Please Try This channel. We are making our first Armory3D indie game. It's a complete project. This is no small demo. This is a big project. We want to make a full complete game that has every features that make us describe it as complete. So I'm gonna need a lot of discipline and I'm gonna need a lot of motivation. Talking about motivation, I would like to thank all those who have subscribed to my channel. You don't know what that does to me. I feel like, woo, man, when I see a new subscriber, and I would like to thank you for that. Thank you, everybody. Now, let's continue. We are talking about the ideal settings for Armory3D bullet hell game. So, let's get on with it. Before I continue, of course, I would like to ask you, subscribe, like, and share. Let's do this, guys. So, as you can see on my screen, we have the sea monster, which we have been developing in the previous video. To those who are seeing this video for the first time, this is the final boss of our Armory3D bullet hell game. So I'm going to be talking about the settings. So I'm going to drag this window over so that we see everything. And I'm going to go on render. So let's go and left click render here. So we need to ask ourselves, what are the best ideal settings for a bullet hell game? And we need to also ask ourselves, what are we prioritizing? For me, I'm prioritizing performance. So I'm going to set these settings that give me the best performance, or we may say the best frames per second, because a bullet hell game must be active. We don't want a slow bullet hell game that is struggling to run when projectiles are firing over. We don't want that. So the first thing we need first is we need to go on the Armory player so that we set the settings. The reason why we are doing this is because some settings cannot be changed midway. We may disrupt everything in our project, so we need to set them at the beginning so that they take us right through to the end. And here we go. Our runtime here is Chrome. We are on the Armory player. Our runtime is Chrome. Yes, we are starting with the desktop version, so I'm going to be using Chrome. Camera, of course, we are using the one in the scene. So I'll say this area is okay. Let's go on the Armory Exporter. I'm not going to be touching this area yet because I'm not yet exporting my game. I dream of that day when I'm finally going to be exporting my game, so I'm not going to touch here. We will use this in future. And now let's go on the Armory project. So the code editor, I'm here on the code editor. I'm going to be using Code Studio as you saw in my previous video with a K. But the problem with Code Studio, of course, is because it was last developed long back in 2018 as we witnessed in our previous video. So for those who want something more recent, you can use VS Code. Maybe I'll do a tutorial so that I show you how to set up VS Code. Or others may use Sublime Text Editor. For me, I'm going to be using Code Studio because I just like its interface. And now let's go on the flags. On the flags here, we have verbose output, which means we are going to get additional information on the console. I'm not going to check this one because I feel it's unnecessary yet, unless I encounter a bug that really bugs me. That's when I'm going to turn this one on so that I see the step-by-step compilation process of our engine. Now we go on the cache build. I'm going to leave this one checked because it speeds up my compilation. What the engine will do is take every material and put it in a cache so that it will be easy for the processor to just grab and process the information. So it speeds up our rendering. So we'll leave this one on. Clear console. I don't want to clear my console, so I'm going to leave it as it is. I want to see everything. So I'm not going to be clearing my console. Then we go on assertion level. Yes, on assertion level, we are asserting that everything is true. So at what level are we asserting things to be false? And of course, we want the minimum level, which is the warning level. So I'll leave it at warning. Do we quit on assertion fail? No, we don't want to quit on assertion fail. So we are going to leave it as it is. Now we are on runtime. Live patch. Live patching is a process whereby when Chrome is running there, remember we are targeting Chrome. When our engine has rendered our game and put it aside, we can tweak things in the viewport, the Blender viewport where we are developing our game, and the settings will be automatically updated in the Chrome renderer. So for that, I don't want to do that yet. I'll do this as per need so that I can tweak something in the viewport so that Chrome can automatically update it so that we see the changes that have occurred. So I'm not going to be doing that yet, so I'll leave this as it is. Stream scene. Stream scene, I'm not going to tick it yet because I don't have many objects in my game yet. Maybe when I have many objects in my game, I'm going to check this one. What stream scene does is it dynamically loads objects. Like say we have many objects in the scene, we first stream the scene and it takes every object, puts it in memory, and then as we play the game, we may now set some distance whereby we dynamically loads those objects. This is good for open world games or simulators. We may tick this one so that the game doesn't drag or do whatever. The engine would have loaded everything before it starts rendering. So I'm not going to be ticking stream scene yet. I'm not using it yet. And loading screen, I'm going to tick this one because I'm sure it is good for our players to see that our game is loading. So we are going to check this one, the loading screen, so that players can see that our game is loading our assets. Right configuration, of course, this is when we are now affecting our game using a JSON file. We configure it using a JSON file. I'm not going to tick this one also. Now we go on the renderer. Batch meshes, I'm going to tick this one. Batching meshes is important because what it does, it takes all meshes that are similar or of similar material and groups them in a particular way and then renders them the same. I'm sure that speeds up our rendering. So it's batching, grouping all the meshes, and then rendering them. I'm going to tick this one so that we get faster renders. Batch materials, I'm also going to tick this one for this bullet hell game because it speeds up rendering. Also, we are now grouping all the materials in one pipeline state, and then, computer graphics, yes, lovely. So it will speed up our rendering. De-interleaved buffers. I'm not going to tick this one. I'd like my game to use a single buffer. When we talk about de-interleaved buffers, we are saying all our object data is going to be stored separately. For instance, the engine is going to render it by taking the object coordinates in one buffer. It takes the materials in another buffer. So all the object data will be separated because we are using multiple buffers. But when we don't tick this one, we are now using a single buffer, which is what I want. I want all my object data to be stored in one buffer. I'm sure that will be more logical, and I'm sure the engine will appreciate that so that there is a little order. So I'm not going to tick the interleaved buffers. I'm going to be using a single buffer so that every data of my object is stored in one buffer. Pre-compute tangents, I'm going to leave it as it is. This is when we have normal maps. We'd like our computer to pre-compute all the tangents and everything. Pre-computing tangents is the best, so we're going to leave it as it is. Canvas image quality, I'm going to leave it at low because I haven't reached the canvas stage. So I want to see what is low. If low is good, we will use low. If low is bad, we'll go on high. So I'll do this as per need. Texture quality, okay, I want the maximum, so I'll leave it as it is. Sound quality is 0.9, and I'm sure that's okay. I'll leave it as it is. External assets, copy, override. I think we'll tick this one, but I don't know if I'm going to be copying any external assets. This is just, it overrides if there is any existing asset that is the same with the one which we are copying externally. So we are going to just tick this one. Copy to bundled. If we have resources that we want to automatically copy to the bundled folder of our project, remember Armory has that bundled folder where it stores some resources of the games and assets. So if you want to automatically copy them there, we can click this button. So I'll leave it here. Now we go, we have the debug console. Why is this one unticked, man? This is the most important part, and we will tick this one because it helps us debug our game as we go. So I'm just going to maximize this so that I see the settings more. Position, right, scale. I think the rest is okay. So we are going to tick debug console because it shows us the performance, how it is rendering and everything. Very important information for a game developer. So I'm going to tick this one. Let's go on the window. For this game, I'm not going to be using a window. I want to go full screen. So I'm going to left click, full screen. I think that's the best setting for this game, this bullet hell game. If it is the desktop version or mobile, we want to go full screen. Do we want it to be resizable? Nope. And let's go on minimizable. Okay, I'm going to leave it minimized. Then we go on VSync, which is vertical synchronization. We will leave it ticked. So the window settings are okay. Now let's go on the modules. What do we have? We have the big ones here. The physics engine, physics. I'm not going to touch anything here. I'll leave it as it is. These are the big ones. So I'm sure the project settings are okay. I'm going to minimize them. Now we go on the render path, and of which it is set to desktop. Armory render path are the pre-settings that are set of how our game engine is going to render our game. So these are settings that have been set by default, showing how our game is going to be rendered by the engine. So the desktop one, I'm not going to be using desktop. Remember, I'm optimizing for maximum performance. I want maximum frames per second. So I'm going to remove this desktop render path by pressing this minus. And then I'm going to add my own. And here we have the desktop, we have the mobile max 2D backed. From my experiment, I saw that 2D backed gives me the maximum performance, but of course at the expense of graphics quality. So I don't know. I'm sure I'll make this one work. So I'm going to select 2D backed and then I'm going to press OK. So we're going to use this one and it comes with its own settings. I'm going to leave the default settings there and I'll tweak them as time goes on. I'm sure they are okay. Particles on. I think this is the most important one because we will use also particles. So for the render part, I think I'm done. What else do we have? The Armory bake. I'm not baking anything yet, so I'll leave this one as it is. I'm sure these settings are okay. So we are now selecting the best camera aspect ratio. And from my research, I noticed that the 16.9 aspect ratio is the best. And we are going to go full HD, which is 1920 by 1080 pixels. So what we are going to do is to go here on the output and ensure we have 1920 pixels on resolution X, Y we have 1020, and then the aspect 1.1. I think these settings are okay, and I'm going to leave these ones as they are so that we use a camera of this dimension. So these are the settings I'm going with, ladies and gentlemen. My Armory3D settings for this Armory3D bullet hell game. It's time to bring in the sea monster, as you can see. So, guys, what I want to say now is we are about to fly on this channel. All my previous content was meant to give us some speed so that we reach this stage, and now it's time to fly. We are about to see the magic of Armory3D, the power of Armory3D, because I'm now getting into the actual practical aspects of game development, the real ones, the scarier ones, you know. And thank you very much for watching this video. I'll catch you on the next video. Please, if you are new, remember to subscribe, like, and share my videos. Thank you very much.